The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 4, Above the Veil. Chapter 11. Silence greeted Mila's words, but it was the silence of disbelief rather than shock. Jarnell even smiled a little, the same smile Tal had seen when a chosen gave a particularly stupid answer in the lectorium. Tal opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. Half of him wanted to protest, to say that Mila was mad, that she had no idea what she was talking about. But the other half wanted to scream out, "Listen to her!" What she had said did make sense. Maybe Zika the Lizard and Einir had been telling the truth about an ancient war between the Einirians and the peoples of the Dark World, chosen and Icecarls. Something was being done to the Veil, something that Tal's own father had been caught up in, as guardian of the orange keystone. But what was a guardian? What did the keystones do? Tal was about to ask a question about keystones when he finally noticed something else. Jarnell had a natural shadow. His spirit shadow was gone. "Your spirit shadow!" gasped Tal, his question forgotten. "What happened to it?" Jarnell looked down, his natural shadow mimicking the movement exactly, better than any spirit shadow ever could. No spirit shadow was that flexible, unlike the shadow guards of children. "I don't know," he said, the pain of his loss clear on his face. "I believe it was somehow forced to return my natural shadow, which bound it to me, and was then killed, or returned to Einir, or signed on to serve the good ship Sushin," interrupted Ebbet gloomily, "or Fashnek." "What?" asked Tal. "You mean they took your spirit shadow and made it serve Sushin?" "I fear so," said Jarnell. "Fashnek certainly had more than his own spirit shadow to do his bidding." "He has 3 by my count," said Mila, "as well as the one that carries him. You chosen have let these shadows in, and they will destroy the veil and let in the sun. I must go swiftly to tell the crones. Who will guide me to the heatway tunnels?" "All in good time, all in good time," soothed Jarnell. "Let us share our knowledge first. What is this talk of the veil being destroyed?" "Drunkards talk while warriors work," spat Mila. She got to her feet and glared at the free folk. "I know what must be done." Yes, said Jarnell. "Gil will take you in due course. Do we have plenty of airweed?" The last question was directed at the free folk girl. She nodded and showed the strand that was tucked through her belt. "The others have more too," she said, "and there are 6 barrels to pick up later." "Airweed?" asked Mila. "What for?" "Like it says, airweed for air," said Gil. She indicated one of the bloated nodules. "These hold air. You can tap them with a knife and breathe from them when there's poison air or smoke in the tunnels. That's how we rescued you before." "Good," said Mila. "Then we will go." "No!" Tal shouted out. "Wait. Maybe you're right about the Einirians, and the ancient war and everything, but shouldn't we at least see if Ebbet, Jarnell, and Benham know anything that the crones need to know?" Benham grunted as his name was mentioned again. Tal looked at him in surprise. The surprise turned to pity as he realized that Benham's eyes were empty, that they were not focused on anything. Ebbet noticed him looking. "He was carried to the hall with a cry and a shout," Ebbet explained. "Twice he went in and twice came out. But what went in was more than this, and what didn't come out we'll sorely miss." "He means that my brother was taken to the Hall of Nightmares twice. His body came back, but inside he's dreaming. He knows his name and simple things. Sometimes he wakes fully, but only for a minute or 2. It was Crow speaking. He stood halfway down the steps, with the others behind him. Tal had not heard them come in. "Our parents did not come out of the hole," he added, looking straight at Tal. "So you see, we have much to thank the Chosen for." Tal couldn't meet his gaze. He couldn't look at Benham either. A strange feeling gripped him, a coldness in his stomach. It was guilt, he knew. "Tal is no longer a Chosen," said Mila. "He is an outcast. You cannot blame him for the evil of his former clan." Tal looked at her. Why was she standing up for him? Crow ignored Mila and turned to Gil, who stepped back a little. Come on, Gil. We've got to go back for the barrels. Gil shook her head. I'm showing Mila how to get to the heatways. Crow scowled. We need you to help with the airweed. She is a spirit shadow. Let it find the way for her. Let her get lost if it comes to that. I'm not an it, growled Audris. She billowed down and Mila slipped into a fighting crouch. Suddenly conflict seemed seconds away. No, said Jarnell. This is all going wrong. Crow, we need to talk to these people, not fight them. Why don't you get Corvum to help with the weed? Corvum and his lot have gone back, Crow replied, to rejoin the Fatalists, just like Lionel and Dren and all the others, because we sit around talking all the time instead of killing Chosen. How many free folk are there? Asked Tal. All the free folk began to speak at the same time. Well, the numbers fluctuate, began Jarnell. Don't tell the spy, spat Crow. 7 right now, said Ferric, counting Jarnell. Close it, roared Crow. Ferric flinched, but the older boy did not follow through with any action to enforce his words. Close it, repeated Crow, but softer. For a second, Tal thought he caught a hint of kindness in Crow's voice, as if he was sorry he'd shouted at Ferric. 7 free folk? Asked Tal. That's all? Counting Jarnell? What about the other sharers of the light? How many of them are there? Jarnell looked down and mumbled something. None left? Repeated Mila, who was the only one who had heard his words. None at all? There were only ever 12 of us, said Jarnell. 13 if you count Ebbet, though he was never formally in the group, and sometimes I wondered. Anyway, Rerum, your father, was one, Tal. After I began my new life down here, I made contact with them. But then, over the years, they disappeared, one by one. Rerum was the last to go. I'm sorry, Tal, but I am sure that, like the others, he must be dead. No, he isn't, said Tal, shaking his head. I asked the Codex. It said, he is the guardian of the orange keystone. It has been unsealed, and so he does not live. Until or unless the orange keystone is sealed again, he does not live. If it's sealed, he will live again. Tal took a deep breath and got to his feet before continuing, the words coming faster and more forcibly as he spoke. That's why I want to know what the keystones are, and how they get unsealed or sealed. And I think Mila needs to know too, because there's something terrible going on, and we all need to sit down and talk, because no matter whether we're chosen or free folk, or ice carls, or something in between, if the veil is destroyed and the sun breaks through and shadows swarm in from Einir, they'll kill all of us. We should be working together instead of fighting and arguing and helping Sushin and the Einirians take over. Tal's impassioned words had the strongest effect on Ebbet. The old man stopped pacing as he spoke and stood taller and straighter than anyone had ever seen him stand. His spirit shadow stood at his side, a regal companion. And Ebbet spoke with a voice that Tal had not heard from him before, an assured and somehow noble voice, without the wandering and strange humor. For a moment, Ebbet was once again the Shadow Lord of the Indigo he had once been, a great man among the chosen. 7 keystones stand in 7 towers, forming the foundation of the veil, he pronounced. 7 guardians hold the secrets of the stones. My nephew Rerum was indeed the guardian of the orange keystone, as was my brother before him. If the Codex has told Tal that the orange keystone is unsealed, then the veil is indeed threatened. For if all 7 of the keystones fail, the veil will be destroyed. The room was silent after Ebbet spoke. Everyone stared at him, even Crow. Ebbet met their looks, unblinking. Then his eyes seemed to twinkle, and his gaze shifted to the ceiling. The silence broke as he began to speak again, his voice softer, his stance already shifting. He seemed diminished, more like his everyday, eccentric self. Sun and shadows, he said. Sun and shadows. The veil may block the sun, but it cannot block the pride and greed of the chosen. We should have obeyed Ramellin's strictures and never returned to Einir. Everything that will come, we have brought upon ourselves. The orange keystone unsealed, echoed Jarnell. Beads of sweat had come up on his forehead. Unsealed. My cousin Lokar was the guardian of the Red. She disappeared a year before Rerum, and... Jarnell's face went white, and his voice almost disappeared. He drank heavily from his cup of sweet water, as if it might bring relief from some great fear. I have just had the most terrible thought, he whispered. 22 years ago, Shadowlode Varen of the Indigo disappeared without a trace, just like Lokar and Rerum. He was the first chosen to disappear without explanation for almost 100 years. He was probably the guardian of the Indigo Keystone. The first to go. Now incredibly agitated, Jarnell leapt up and gripped Ebbet on the arm. 22 years ago, Ebbet! That same year that the three chosen overstayed in Ymir! Ebbet gently pulled Jarnell's fingers away, but did not speak. He kept staring up at the sunstone in the ceiling, and Tal could hear him humming some soft and doleful tune. What about the chosen who stayed in Ymir? Tal asked. The only one who came back was Sushin, whispered Jarnell. He never explained what had happened, and disclaimed all knowledge of the other two. He was more than a month late returning, but he was not punished. Varen disappeared soon after he came back. I would never have thought to connect them before. This is chosen business, interrupted Crow, sneering. You talk of the Veil being destroyed. What does that matter to the free folk? We have never seen the sun in your towers or in your private world of Ymir. Maybe it is good the Veil will be destroyed. Mila looked at him angrily. You speak faster than you think, she said. The Veil is a defense, a ship wall against shadows. It is not just the sun that would be let in, but also the many creatures of Ymir who hate and fear us. They are the ancient enemies of all our people, and they will slay free folk, underfolk chosen, and Icecaros. Crow shrugged, as if he could shake off Mila's words. But he did not speak, and she could tell that he didn't want to admit that he had heard truth in her voice. How is a keystone unsealed? Asked Tal. Jarnell wiped the sweat from his forehead and folded his hands together before he answered. A habit Tal remembered from the lectorium. It meant that Jarnell didn't want to admit he didn't know the answer, and would talk a lot to disguise the fact. While the secrets of the keystones are kept only by the guardians, Jarnell began, I understand that certain lengthy rituals and incantations... Balderdash, interrupted Ebbet. Also, Codswallop and Shadowpoop. No one knows, except the 6 guardians. 7, corrected Jarnell, angry at being so rudely interrupted. Ebbet smiled and held up 6 fingers, closing each one in turn into his fists as he counted. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo. And violet, added Tal. He was used to Ebbet's eccentricities and weird lapses of ordinary knowledge, but this was so obvious he was embarrassed for his great-uncle. Ebbet shook his head and smiled, a secret smile. The violet guardian is the heir of Ramelin, he said. Not the toe, not the ear, nor the fingernail, but the heir of Ramelin. The inheritor. The Empress, said Jarnell. He seemed relieved. Then we need not fear for the Veil so much. It would be truly terrible if Sushin and his cohorts already had the violet keystone. Why? Asked Mila. The 7th tower holds all the ancient secrets of Ramelin, all the devices and machines of the ancient magic, said Jarnell. Whoever controls the violet keystone controls the tower. Fortunately, while the Empress is obviously unaware of the machinations of her dark vizier, she would never entrust control of the violet keystone to anyone but herself. We can rest easy on that one keystone, at least. Ebbet held up an imaginary book and turned some imaginary pages. It seemed that he had no trouble seeing the book himself, because he traced the first line with his finger, reciting. The Empress Catild, first of her line, came to the throne of Ramelin in unusual circumstances. Controversy surrounded the death of Emperor Merkur, and his funeral was irregular and rushed, with no lying in state, giving rise to talk that he had been hideously assassinated and the body was not fit to view. That is from Kimmerl's history, protested Jarnell. She was totally discredited years ago and the book banned. I fail to see any relevance in it, or may I say it, in you, Ebbet. Really, anyone would think you were the one who came out of the Hall of Nightmares. Talk, 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 said Crow. "That's all that ever happens here. If the Vale is in danger, and all of us because of it, what are we going to do? And what's in it for the free folk?" "I will take word to the crones," said Mila. "They will know what to do." "I think we need to take a look at one of the keystones," said Tal slowly. He was still thinking it through. "Maybe if we can work out how to seal it again, it would bring back the Guardian. Or if we find one that's still sealed, we could take it away so Sushin couldn't get at it." "I doubt if the keystones can be moved," said Jarnal, "since they are part of the towers and the Vale. But your plan has merit, my boy. If we can release even one Guardian, they can tell us what we must do. And the Empress would surely believe us if we had one of the Guardians to tell their story, even against the Dark Vizier. But who will go? And to which tower?" "I will go," said Tal, "to the Orange Tower, to free my father."